I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, don't close them if you're driving, which ironically is exactly where I want to take you. Picture this. It is Tuesday morning, January 19th, 2026. You're in a major city, London, New York, maybe Chicago. You're sitting in your car, maybe you're squeezed onto a train, and you were looking at something that for a few years there we really thought was going extinct.
Gridlock, just absolute bumper-to-bumper misery.
Right. And you're sitting there thinking, wait a minute, did everyone just forget how to drive? But here's the thing, it's not a transit strike. It's not some sudden population boom. It is a very specific, coordinated event.
It's the traffic of a mandate. What you're seeing in this 2026 scenario is the direct result of the return to office, or RTO wars, entering their final and honestly most aggressive phase.
See, that's what really caught my eye with this new deep dive. We're looking at a source material titled The Glass Castle, The Future of Remote Work War. And it paints a picture that is so much more intense than the, polite hybrid talks we were having a few years ago.
Oh, absolutely. The gloves are completely off in this document. For years, companies sort of tiptoed around it. They used phrases like flexible arrangements and team anchor days.
Oh, that soft language, yeah.
But by January 2026, the whole tone from the corner office has shifted. The memo isn't a suggestion anymore. It's an ultimatum. It's basically come back or don't bother coming back at all.
Which feels like such a massive U-turn. I mean, we spent years seeing data about remote work being fine, productivity was up even. So the mission for this deep dive is to figure out why the sudden hard pivot, why are CEOs so obsessed with the physical building again, and on the other side, what kind of weird subversive behaviors are employees inventing to fight back?
And trust me, weird is exactly the right word. The workplace of 2026 that's described here is becoming a very strange place.
So let's start at the top. The source material calls this part the general's dilemma. We're looking at the CEO perspective. Because, when you're sitting in that traffic jam, it's so easy to just villainize the boss. But this article suggests there's a logic to it.
There is. And to understand it, you really have to look at the numbers. The source cites a prediction that in 2026, 83% of global CEOs expect a return to a full 5-day in-office week.
Whoa, pause right there. 83%. That's basically the death of hybrid for almost everyone. That sounds incredibly high given how much people want flexibility. Are they just ignoring what employees want?
It seems that way, but we have to ask why. Is it just a power trip? Is it all about control? The source argues it's actually driven by 3 very specific and very deep-seated fears.
Okay, lay them on me. What is keeping these CEOs up at night?
The first one is something they call the collaboration tax.
Collaboration tax. That sounds like corporate buzzword bingo. What does it actually mean?
It all ties back to this idea of social capital.
Okay.
Think of social capital like a savings account for your company culture. Every time you bump into a colleague in the hallway or chat while waiting for coffee, you're depositing a little bit of trust into that account.
I like that analogy. So these small, random interactions build up a balance.
Precisely. And the CEO's argument, which is backed by an MIT study cited here, is that fully remote teams are constantly making withdrawals from that account, but they never make any deposits. They become siloed.
Meaning you only talk to the people you absolutely have to talk to for your job.
That's it. You lose what they call the weak ties. You stop talking to the person in accounting or marketing because, well, you have no reason to schedule a 30-minute Zoom with them. And the leadership belief is that real innovation, those aha moments, it doesn't happen on a scheduled call. It happens in the serendipity of the cafeteria line.
So they see the office as a serendipity machine. And by staying home, we're essentially breaking that machine.
That is the fear. They think the company is slowly becoming less creative, less bonded, and eventually it'll just be a group of freelancers who happen to have the same logo on their pay stub.
Okay, so that's the creative argument. I can sort of see the logic there. But there's a darker one here, too. The source calls it productivity paranoia. This feels less about creativity and more about, well, trust.
This is the big disconnect. If you ask a listener right now, are you productive at home? They'll almost certainly say absolutely. I might put in a load of laundry, sure, but I didn't commute for 2 hours. I didn't get distracted by Dave talking about his weekend. I powered through my to-do list.
Right. I think most of us feel that way.
But the manager feels blind. The old style of management was literally management by walking around. You'd walk past a row of desks, you'd see people typing, screens are on, and your brain says, okay, work is happening.
It's that visual confirmation.
Exactly. And when you take that visual away, managers start to panic. They start to spiral. They have this fear that working from home has secretly mutated into shirking from home.
And this is where all the creepy tech comes in, right?
Yeah.
The source mentions the rise of bossware. I've heard horror stories about this stuff.
It's getting so much more sophisticated and intrusive. We aren't just talking about a little green dot on Slack anymore. We're talking about software that can track your mouse movements, count your keystrokes per minute, and even take random screenshots of your desktop throughout the day.
That sounds like a complete morale killer. It's like having a digital foreman standing over your shoulder all day.
It destroys psychological safety. But try to see it from the nervous CEO's perspective for a second. If they can't see you, they don't trust you. And since they can't physically walk by your desk, they install effectively a digital camera. The RTO mandate is basically them saying, I'm tired of looking at dashboards. I want to see bodies in seats so I know I'm getting what I paid for.
Okay, so we have the serendipity argument, the trust argument, but there's a third one. And honestly, whenever I look at big corporate decisions, I usually just assume the answer is money. The source calls this one the real estate time bomb.
This is the elephant in the room that no one puts in the official welcome back email. Imagine you're the CFO of a major corporation. 5 years ago, you signed a 10-year lease on a huge, gleaming glass tower in a major downtown area. You're paying, let's say, $10 million a year for that space.
And if nobody is in it,
Then you are paying $10 million for air conditioning and security guards to watch empty desks. It looks horrible on the balance sheet. It's just wasted capital.
it's the sunk cost fallacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
We already spent the money, so we have to use it, even if using it doesn't actually make us more productive.
That's a huge part of it. But there's external pressure, too. Think about the whole ecosystem of a downtown area. The sandwich shop downstairs, the dry cleaner, the subway system. They all depend on that daily flood of office workers.
The downtown economy.
Exactly. So now you have mayors and city councils calling these CEOs, pressuring them. They're saying, you need to bring your people back or our city center is going to collapse.
Wow. So if you're a CEO, you've got your balance sheet screaming at you, the mayor screaming at you, and your own paranoia about people working. When you stack all that up, the mandate starts to look less like some villainous plot, more like a desperate attempt to regain control.
It creates a rational framework for their decision, yes. But here's the problem. You can issue a mandate. You can demand compliance. But people are very, very good at finding loopholes.
Which brings us to part two, the resistance. Because employees are not just rolling over, and the source material introduces us to a brand new term in the 2026 Corporate Dictionary, and I have to say, I love it. Coffee badging.
It's a fantastic term, isn't it? And it's a perfect example of how people adapt to rules they think are just stupid.
For the listener who hasn't heard this yet, paint the picture. Who is the coffee badger?
So imagine an employee, let's call him Mark. Mark's company says, you must be in the office 3 days a week. And they track this by your badge swipes at the entrance.
Okay.
So Mark gets up, puts on his work clothes, commutes 45 minutes. He walks into the lobby, swipes his ID badge beep. That's the badge part.
He's registered? The system says Mark is here.
Correct. Mark goes upstairs, drops his bag. He heads to the break room, grabs a free coffee. He finds a colleague. They chat for an hour or so. He might check a few emails on his phone. And then, by 11 a.m., Mark leaves.
He just walks out.
He goes back to his car and drives home.
Yeah.
He finishes his actual deep work, the coding, the report, writing at his home desk. He has technically complied. His badge swipe is in the system, but he has completely subverted the intent.
It's malicious compliance. It's a silent protest. But you have to ask, why go through all that effort? Why not just stay and work?
Because for Mark, and millions like him, the return to office isn't just an annoyance. It is effectively a massive pay cut.
A pay cut. Explain the math on that for me.
Well, the source breaks it down. We're talking about 2026 inflation, gas prices, train tickets, parking fees, that all adds up. But then look at the lifestyle costs. A salad in a city center, that's $18 now. Coffee is $6. And the big one? Professional childcare.
Oh, right. If you're at home, maybe you can handle the after-school pickup. If you're in the office until 6, you need to pay someone.
And when you add it all up, the source estimates that a full return to the office costs a worker between $5,000 and $10,000 a year, out of their own pocket.
That is huge. That's a significant chunk of someone's salary. So when a CEO says, come back to collaborate, the employee hears, come back and take a $10,000 pay cut.
Precisely. And on top of the money, there's the productivity gap. We talked about the CEO's paranoia, but employees have data on their side too. Stanford research is cited here, and it consistently shows that for Individual contributor, roles coders, writers, accountants, remote workers are often about 13% more productive.
Because no one is tapping them on the shoulder asking if they saw the latest memo.
Fewer interruptions. If your job is to really focus and type, a quiet home office is objectively better than a loud, open-plan floor where the sales team is ringing a gong every 10 minutes. So the employee is thinking, I am spending money to commute to a place where I get less work done. This is completely irrational.
And if they get pushed too hard, they have what the source calls a nuclear option.
Right. The talent drain. The survey data here is stark. Between 40 and 60% of high performers say they would rather quit than return to the office 5 days a week.
That's a staggering number. But where would they go? If everyone is mandating RTO, aren't they stuck?
Not everyone. And this is the real danger for the big legacy companies. This flight to flexibility creates a huge opportunity for their competitors. If you're a massive corporation demanding 5 days in the office, your smaller, more agile competitors are just waiting to poach your best people. They put 100% remote right in the job description. They can steal your top talent without even offering a raise. They just offer freedom.
So we have this unstoppable force, the CEO, and the immovable object to the employee. And usually when that happens, you get a compromise. For the last few years, that compromise was hybrid, but the source calls this the hybrid trap.
Yes, the famous 3 days in, 2 days out. It sounds perfect on paper, doesn't it? The best of both worlds.
But the source calls it the worst of both worlds. Why is the hybrid model failing in this 2026 snapshot?
It's because of something called the ghost town effect. Let's go back to our friend Mark. Let's say he decides to play by the rules this time. He drives in, sits at his desk at 9 a.m. He looks around.
Yeah.
And half his team isn't there because it's Tuesday and Sarah works from home on Tuesdays. And Dave is in, but Dave sits on a different floor now because of hot desking.
So Mark is just sitting in a corporate office alone.
It's worse than that. He puts on his noise-canceling headphones to block out the marketing team, and he logs into Zoom to have a meeting with Sarah, who is at home.
That is the definition of insanity. He commuted an hour to sit on a video call.
It creates this immense resentment. The question, why am I here, just dominates his whole day. It feels performative. But there is another danger to hybrid that's more subtle and honestly way more insidious. The source calls it the two-tier workforce.
This sounds like it's about who gets ahead in their career.
It's all about proximity bias. It's a basic human flaw. We value the people we can see. If you're in the office, you're chatting with the boss, you're going for lunch, you're laughing at their jokes, you are top of mind, you get the mentorship, you get the hot new project, you get the promotion.
And the person at home, the one just as talented, maybe even more productive.
They become invisible. They might be hitting all their targets, doing excellent work, but they just aren't seen. They become a service provider, not a team member. And the source points out a really troubling demographic detail here. Who is most likely to want or need to work from home?
Well, often it's people with caregiving responsibilities, parents with young kids, or people looking after elderly parents.
Exactly. And statistically, that group disproportionately includes women. So if we aren't careful, the hybrid trap creates a really dangerous scenario. The office gets full of men and people without caregiving duties who get promoted, while women and caregivers at home get their careers stalled.
We risk creating a corporate caste system, a two-tier society where your zip code determines your career more than your actual talent.
That is the hidden danger. It threatens to unravel decades of progress on diversity and inclusion, all because it's just easier for managers to promote the person they saw in the break room.
It's heavy. We have CEOs panicking about culture and real estate. We have employees furious about costs and efficiency. And the compromise hybrid is creating a discriminatory system. It feels like a total deadlock. But surely the source material offers some kind of solution, a way out of this.
It does, but it requires a pretty radical shift in how we think. The conclusion section talks about a new social contract.
A new contract. What does that look like?
The source argues that this whole war isn't really about location at all. It's not about your office versus your living room. It's about how we measure value. It declares the death of the 20th century model, which was simply hours output.
Right, the factory model. If you stood on the assembly line for 8 hours, you did a good job.
Exactly. But in knowledge work, that's just nonsense. You can sit at a desk for 8 hours and do nothing. Or you can have a brilliant idea in the shower in 5 minutes that saves the company millions. So we have to move to a 21st century model. Outcome. Output.
Meaning, I don't care how long it took you or where you were when you did it. I care about the result.
Precisely. The winning companies of 2026 won't be the ones with the strictest mandates or the creepiest bossware. They will be the ones that treat employees like adults. They'll say, here's the job, here's the goal. You figure out how to get it done.
But if that happens, what happens to the office? You
Yeah.
just burn down the glass castle, turn
Yeah.
the skyscrapers into apartments?
Not necessarily, but the purpose of the office has to change completely. The expert in the source visualizes this shift beautifully. The office must stop being a warehouse for bodies. We just don't need a place to store humans while they type anymore.
So if it's not a warehouse, what is it?
It becomes a clubhouse.
A clubhouse. Like ping pong tables and free beer.
Think bigger than that. Think of it as a destination, a cultural hub. The office needs to be a place you want to go to, not a factory you have to go to. It should be designed for the things that are actually better in person. Socializing, complex training, big, messy brainstorming sessions, celebrating wins.
So you go to the office to bond, and you go home to actually work.
In many ways, yes. It completely flips the script. The quiet, focused time happens at home. The loud, messy human connection part happens at the office. If the office becomes a cultural hub, people will commute for that.
Yeah.
Humans crave connection. We don't crave sitting in a gray cubicle sending emails to someone 10 feet away.
That makes so much sense. I would absolutely drive 45 minutes for a really good workshop and a team lunch. I would not drive 45 minutes to sit on a Zoom call.
That's the entire key. If companies can make that pivot from warehouse to clubhouse, they can solve this. They can get the social capital back without all the resentment. But if they just demand attendance for attendance's sake, they're going to lose the talent war.
It's a fascinating shift. It feels like we're in the messy middle of unlearning 100 years of corporate conditioning. We're trying to run 21st century software on 20th century hardware, and the system is just crashing.
That is a perfect way to put it. And the traffic jam we started with, that's just a symptom of the crash.
So let's wrap this up. We've unpacked the CEO's anxiety, the fears about innovation, that sunk cost of real estate. We've looked at the employees' rebellion, the coffee badging, the refusal to take a pay cut for a commute. And we've seen how the hybrid model is kind of breaking everyone.
And we've arrived at this realization that the only way out isn't a new policy, but a whole new philosophy, trusting outcomes over hours.
Which brings us to our final thought. We always like to leave you with something to mull over, maybe while you're stuck in traffic tomorrow. And today, it's about that clubhouse concept.
Right. If we really accept this future, if we accept that the office is no longer for typing and emailing, but only for socializing and culture and bonding, it raises a really provocative question. Does the modern successful company actually need less work to happen in the office to be successful? And if that's true, are we finally ready to admit that working and being at work are now two completely different things?
Working versus being at work. I have a feeling a lot of us are going to be thinking about that difference the next time we swipe that badge.
That's it for this deep dive into the remote work war. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.